guys, welcome to another episode of Rock Bottom Airsoft. It's good to see you again. As always, if it's your first time here, then it is good to see you. I hope you'll stick around. Okay, well, welcome to one of our regular weekend videos. I'm sorry, a lot of you will already know, but if you're new to the channel, then this is a video we do every weekend. Every weekend we'll upload a video discussing all aspects of Airsoft, whether that be gear reviews, tech, replica reviews, discussions about gear and different replicas, all sorts of things really. And we do that every weekend. And then midweek, I'll normally look to upload a gameplay video from one of my trips out to my home site normally, Tazball Airsoft, or wherever I may have been. And we do that every midweek. So, you know, if you do enjoy this video and find that you like my series of videos, then please do subscribe to the channel, and then you won't miss any of my uploads. And I'll keep you up to date with what we're up to here at Rock Bottom Airsoft. As well as that, if you do want any more content from myself, you can find Rock Bottom Airsoft on Facebook and Instagram, and there's photos and discussions and things on there as well as updates on the channel in general. Okay, so with that out of the way, what are we going to be looking at today? Well, today we're going to be looking at another one of our fives lists. If you've seen any of my previous videos on these, I've done 5 useful items for Airsoft. 5 things that you may not have thought about for your kit bag when you go into your first Airsoft game, or you know, if you're a regular player, you may not have considered them. So those items were things that were relatively affordable and could make your experiences at Airsoft a little bit better, I thought. So you could look back on those videos in the channel. But the video I'm doing today is a little bit different, hence the reason for the item that's in front of us first of all. Today we're going to look at 5 items that are not necessary to enjoy your game of Airsoft, might be the best way of putting it. These are 5 things that you'll want and that everybody buys, but they're 5 things that, in my opinion, I mean obviously it might differ for other players, but in my opinion, they're 5 things that don't really make my game of Airsoft any better, shall we say. I can still play a good game of Airsoft and have loads of fun without these 5 things. That isn't to say though, I've got these items, so obviously I bought them, but these are things that you'll want, and indeed they are great fun. They are things that you want for a number of reasons. However, they're things that you don't need. So if you're new to Airsoft, you'd be better off spending the money that you'd spend on these on a better primary replica, or on gear to improve your experience, such a decent pair of boots, trousers, that type of thing, just when you're getting started off. So without further ado, let's get into the first item. So the first item on my list of 5 items that you'll want and that cost you a bit of money, but you don't really need, is Airsoft grenades. Whether that be blank firing grenades or gas grenades like this one here that fire out BBs. There is a wealth of grenades available, and I'm sure if you look into it, there are hundreds. I myself have quite a lot of different varieties of Airsoft grenade. I think I've got about 5 or 6 different types, and various numbers of those. Now, the reason I've put them in this list is if you're just starting out in Airsoft, or if you're running on a limited budget, yes, grenades can be useful. I will not argue that for room clearing, or for someone who's particularly dug in an open field game, a grenade can help you out. However, most sites when you start up will sell some sort of pyro, and pyro grenades are single use, and they're just as good. To be honest, I find myself using pyro more often than I use my blank firing or gas firing grenades. I much more regularly use single use pyro grenades, and for one visit that'll be a lot cheaper depending on how many you use. Obviously you'd have to do the math yourself on that one. But even if I didn't have the pyro grenades, and even if I didn't have any of these grenades, I would still have just as much fun on the Airsoft field as long as my primary replica is running well, my feet are dry, and my face protection is working for me. I'm happy. So again, grenades, another item that you will want, as I am walking evidence of because I've bought loads of them, but they'll cost you a lot of money, and if you're just starting out, you really don't need one as such. So that's the first item out of the way. I am expecting that this list might cause a bit of controversy with some of you guys. Some people might say, yeah, that's an absolute necessity. And if that's the case, if you feel it's a necessity for you to enjoy your game of Airsoft, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just giving my opinion on what I think are items that you'll want. But if you're honest about it, you don't really need. So there we go. If you do disagree with any on my list, or if you think there's other things that people buy that they don't really need that should be on this list, let me know in the comments. As you know, I always respond to a comment. Now the next one on my list is these. This is a suppressor. Now I know what's going to happen here. A lot of people will say that a suppressor is necessary. I would say that a suppressor, there are instances where one will come in handy for you, primarily if you want to put an extended inner barrel in your replica. But my argument to that is that if the replica is firing as you want, if you're just starting out in Airsoft, you're not going to be wanting to upgrade the replica that you have straight away. So you might just be buying a suppressor just for the look. Now if that is the case, that's absolutely fine. A suppressor just for the look, yeah, they look tactically cool. I've got loads of them again. I've bought loads of them, some for hiding inner barrels, but most just because I think they look cool. Some of them will have foam inserts, but let's be honest here, the vast majority of AEGs and gas blowback weapons are relatively quiet. They don't make a lot of noise. You can't hear them miles away. Yes, a suppressor might reduce the volume in a, I don't know, perhaps a sniper, perhaps HPA. It may make a marginal difference to the noise that your replica makes. At a distance, is it going to give you a tactical advantage? I don't know. I would argue it. But I would say that suppressors are certainly one that, yes, you might want one because it will make your replica look cool, but you really don't need one. It isn't going to make your game day any better. It's not going to improve the accuracy of your replica. And I would argue that it isn't really going to give you any advantage on the field. However, again, it's one of those things, like I said, I've got loads of them. So it's one of them things that you want, but you really don't need. So yeah, you know, again, if you want to get one, as I said, with everything on this list, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, and I'm not saying that these things are bad. All I'm saying is if you're starting out and you're a limited budget, then the money that you would spend on something like this, you'd be better putting towards your primary replica or indeed gear to make you more comfortable on the field and more effective. So yeah, that's suppressors, Airsoft suppressors. They have a couple of uses, but on the whole, it's one of them things that you want, but you really don't need. Okay, so what's next up? Now this one, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of arguments on. This mainly applies to me, and it applies to the scenario that you're in. Now, what I'm putting here is red dot sights. These particular red dot sights I've got here are replicas. They're not original. Obviously, this isn't an original EOTech. It's a replica. It is functional, and I find that it works very well. But the vast majority of red dots, anybody who knows me, who's played with me on the field, as most of you may know that follow the channel, the vast majority of replica sights or real steel sights that I put on my replicas are just for the look, because they look tactical. What I tend to do is I don't aim down the sights, I tend to watch where my BBs are going. That's the beauty of Airsoft. You can track your Airsoft BBs. There is only one situation where I do use a sight on my replica, and that's on my snipers. Because you're shooting at range, you've only got one shot, and you really do need to aim. So my scopes that I use on my snipers, or indeed on a DMR, I will use a proper scope on those, and I will try to reasonably zero the scope and actually aim down the sights. But for AGs, for standard assault type replicas, I have lots of these sights, lots of replica sights, and I mount them to my replicas purely for the look, because I think they look really cool. Again, it's a tactical issue. So if you're just starting out, or if you're on a limited budget, for me, a red dot sight of any description is not going to improve your experience on the field. It's not going to make your replica shoot any better. What you'll find is most of the time, if you play like me, or if you're in the thick of it, you will be watching where your BBs go. You'll see where they're landing. So I mean, that's much easier than looking down sights normally, especially depending on the type of face protection you wear. So yes, again, another item that you'll want and you'll no doubt end up buying. But to me, the money you'd spend on, you know, especially a high-end replica sight would be, or indeed a real steel sight, would be much better spent on your primary replica or gear that will make you more efficient and more comfortable and have a more fun day on the field. So yeah, by all means, you can get these. I know a lot of people do aim down sights. I may very well be in a minority, I don't know. Again, let me know in the comments. But for me, I tend to track where my BBs go. I don't tend to aim down these sights at all. Red dot sights, don't use them. I have them mounted to pretty much all of my replicas, but I don't use them. I just get them for the look. So there we go. Another item that might be controversial, something that I think that, you know, when you're starting out, you'll want them, and you'll think that you have to have it from the get-go, but with the vast majority of replicas, you'll get open sights included of some description. And if you do want to aim down sights, then open sights is absolutely fine. For me, rather than spending a whole chunk of your budget on a cheap red dot sight, or indeed a real steel red dot sight, that money will be much better spent on gear, or indeed on your primary replica, so you can get the best that you're able to afford. Okay, so moving on is one that I am definitely guilty of, and that is sidearms. This is one of my pistols, one of my sidearms. Now, there is a difference in this one. I'm saying that you can enjoy a game of airsoft without a secondary, is what I'm saying here. Now, I know that some of you guys out there, especially in a CQB environment, I've done it myself in woodland games, will play pistol only. Now, if your pistol is your primary, then that's fine. You know, I'm not saying that they aren't necessary. But again, as a secondary, which what mine mainly end up being is, you have a primary replica, like an AR pattern rifle, for example, and then on your hip, you'll have a pistol or some other secondary pistol type weapon. Now, when you're sniping, again, a pistol may very well be necessary depending on your sight rules, but I know at my home site, Tazball, you have a minimum engagement distance for your main sniper rifle. So if anybody comes within that minimum engagement distance, you would go to your sidearm and be able to engage the target with that. If you don't have a sidearm, you have to retreat and you can't fire until you're within the distance. So yeah, in those instances, a replica would be useful. But if you're just starting out, I never usually recommend starting out as a sniper. I'd normally say you're best off to give it a go with an assault variant of some sort, so you can get stuck in and get a feel for the game. But everybody wants one. Everybody will try and get one as part of the first kit. If you're getting a decent gas blowback pistol, that's going to be a big chunk of your budget. You're then going to maybe need 1 or 2 spare magazines for it, depending on how often you go to it. What I tend to find is when I'm running pistol only, I'll use pistol all the time. In the vast majority of field games, in the skirmish field, I will find that I don't tend to draw my pistol all that often at all. It's very rare that I will find myself in a situation where I need to draw my secondary. But I have one anyway. In fact, as many of you know, I've got loads of pistols. I really like them. So what I'm saying in here is to enjoy your games of airsoft. If you're getting your initial kit together and you're going to be running a primary rifle and you aren't a sniper, then a sidearm is not a necessity. It does not need to be budgeted into your initial kit for you to enjoy airsoft. You'll enjoy it whether you have a secondary or not. And if you're running pistol only, great, that's fine, because that's your primary, so you can discount this one. So there we go, another item. Everybody wants sidearms, but you know, we don't really need them. Vast majority of the time, you're not going to draw it. Some people do, some people don't, but like I say, I'm just telling you my experiences here. You guys might find different, that you go to your pistol all the time. And I'm not knocking pistols because I love them. And I've got loads of them. I'm just putting this as another item in our 5 items of things that you want and you end up buying you don't really need them to enjoy a game of airsoft out in the field. So that's the pistol. So then the last item that we've got, and by no means least, which may be extremely controversial, is plate carriers. My plate carrier here has dummy sappy plates in it. I bought this one early on in airsoft because I thought this is what you really wanted to run around with in a field game in airsoft. As I've played and evolved in my airsoft game, I have discovered that the plate carrier is completely unnecessary. It's bulky, it's a lot of weight if you're going to completely load it out with gear, which just is not necessary for skirmish games. If you're a milsimmer and you're going for a simulated look, then this doesn't apply to you. Then obviously you will wear a plate carrier and you will have a lot more gear on you anyway, which I can completely understand. But if you're going to your first skirmish game, whether it's indoor or outdoor, a plate carrier, totally unnecessary in my opinion. A chest rig or a battle belt is more than enough to carry enough rounds for a skirmish, and you can reload back in the safe zone. I am primarily a skirmish player. As most of you know, I do not play milsims. So that's why, for me, if you're going to go and play a skirmish game of airsoft, plate carrier, you don't need one. You really don't. Another thing you find is to hold the shape of the plate carrier and to make it sit properly on your body. I use dummy sappy plates, which are in this one. They're quite hard. You don't feel hits. If you're wearing this and somebody shoots you centre mass or in the back, you ain't going to feel it. There's no two ways about it, especially with the dummy plates in. You're not going to feel it. A load of magazines in the front, you're not going to feel that. Unless you notice yourself get hit, you're not going to feel it. So for me to enjoy a game of airsoft, you do not need one of these. By all means, if you like the look and you're going for a particular look, that's half the fun of airsoft, is looking tactical and having a particular loadout. So yeah, by all means, go with the plate carrier. But if you're getting a decent plate carrier, they're expensive, they're heavy, you don't feel your hits, they're just completely unnecessary. You could turn up to the airsoft field in, you know, some comfortable trousers, a decent pair of boots and a t-shirt, and you'll have just as much fun running around that field as you would wearing one of these. So there we go. That's the last one, I think. Like I say, nothing against plate carriers. I've got more than one of them. But I would say it's another item that we buy, that we want, that you really don't need. So I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you enjoyed that list. Again, like I said earlier, I know a lot of you are going to disagree with some of the items I've got on there, saying that, you know, they are necessary. And I'll agree with you. You know, some people will find these things completely necessary, but I'm telling you from my experiences in airsoft, from my experiences of playing, that if you're just starting out and you're getting your budget together for your gear, then those are items that you can probably skip, and you'd be better putting that money into, you know, boots, decent pair of trousers, clothing, and a decent primary replica, whether that be, you know, your pistol or your rifle, depending on what you're going to be playing with. That's where I'd be putting my budget, looking at things from the past, because all these things I bought from the get-go when I first started, and then discovered that I really didn't need them to have fun. And now I just buy more of them anyway. So if you do have any comments, then do drop them below, and as you know, I'll always respond to a comment. I'll always get back to you. If you like the video, then please drop a like on it, and if you're enjoying my series of videos, as I mentioned earlier, then do please subscribe to the channel. And hopefully, I shall see you in the next one.